The UDRcast is not affiliated and does not represent any 12-step fellowship. I, Bill Ward, the host of the UDRcast, will be sharing my experience and my journey of recovery. That does include, but is not limited to, the literature contained in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps. Our guests will be sharing their own path to recovery and what has worked for them. The UDRcast encourages and supports all paths to recovery. Welcome everybody to the UDRcast. UDR stands for Uncover, Discover, and Recover. My name is Bill Ward, and I'm coming to you from the recovery capital of Canada, Calgary, Alberta. Here we are going to discuss everything recovery, different perspectives, different experiences, both with the people I know and with others from around the world. If you resonate with anything you've heard on this episode today, we ask that you share it with anyone who you think may benefit from it. If you have any questions or comments, please find us at billward.life and send us a message in the info section. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you are interested in more recovery content, you can find the buttons for the YouTube channel and other social media outlets on the homepage, and you will be redirected to those platforms. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time. You know, I'm thinking about my drinking and using career, and I'm thinking about the unmanageability that it talks about in the Big Book on page 52. You know, a lot of people, especially when they're new, they have this idea of unmanageability as just everything that we did when we were drinking and these kind of things. And, you know, maybe to some degree that unmanageability is very simple to see through the addiction process, and that's what makes sense, right? But after being around here for a little while, taking many people through the book, understanding the literature, you know, I'm going to read the unmanageability that they talk about in the Big Book on page 52. They refer to it as the bedevilments. I like to refer to it as the step zero promises. They're promises that almost all of us are guaranteed to have when we get here. And if we don't work a solid program, we will live in the unmanageability of these 8 promises. And if we keep living in the unmanageability of these 8 promises, we will pick up a drink again. Because when I read these and I think back about my life, that's why I fucking picked up in the first place. And for a while I was able to manage some of this stuff on my own will, maybe with some substances, maybe with some of the defects that this talks about. But very similarly to in Bill's story, where Bill describes he is forging the weapon that would one day turn in its flight and cut him to ribbons. It's alcohol. He's forging the weapon of alcohol that one day down the road will turn in its flight and starts cutting him to ribbons, just like it did for me, just like drugs did for me. Just like the defects of character that used to work and expand my life, they actually turn and fucking start cutting me to ribbons. So, we had to ask ourselves, why shouldn't we apply to our human problems the same readiness to change our point of view? 1, we were having trouble with personal relationships. When I got here, every personal relationship I had was fucking destroyed. And especially the one with myself. We couldn't control our emotional natures. I couldn't control any of my emotional natures. I would fly off the handle in anger. I would find myself breaking down in tears, which would turn to more anger. And most of my emotions funneled into one, which was anger. We were prey to misery and depression. I love that one. Prey to misery and depression. When you look up the word prey in the dictionary, it says an animal that hunts and stalks another animal to kill and eat. That's what misery and depression will do to a person. It will stalk them, it will hunt them, and it will fucking kill them. That's why people jump off at the jumping off point and commit suicide in this program. Or they can't handle it and they pick up a fucking drink again, which is another form of suicide for the alcoholic addict. We had a feeling of uselessness. Fuck, I had that. Totally fucking useless. We were full of fear. I didn't realize it when I was out there, but when I got here and I saw the definitions of fear and how it ran my life, especially when I did my step 4 and realized I was driven by fear. Most of my life was driven by fears that I made up in my head, and they drove 90% of my decisions in my life. But the thing was that most of the fears were made up in my head. But I made them reality, and they controlled me, and they spun me in a bad way. We were unhappy. Yeah. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Yeah. We couldn't make a living. Yeah. That one ended for me too. But that's the one step 0 promises. So there's 8 of these promises I just read, but there's one, couldn't make a living. Some people can make a living. And that one promise that they don't have, of the step 0 promises, that one will keep them out, and it will keep them sick, and it will keep them living in most of this unmanageability. So that's the one to really watch for. If you're still working, or if you're not sure, that's the one to really watch for. If you got 7 out of fucking 8, what are we talking about? You know what the fuck I'm saying? And then it goes on to say, was not a basic solution of these benevolence more important than fucking anything? Yeah. I want to live the opposite of this shit. I don't want to live that. And because I lived in that for so many years, I had to fucking drink and I had to use drugs. Because there's no way out of that. So I need to pick up a drink, and I will succumb to the desire again. I will pick up a drink. Because that's the step 0 promises. That's the unmanageability. That is the spiritual malady. And selfish self-centeredness runs its ass all through that shit. When we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance upon a spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work and do not work, but the God idea does and did. So that's what I saw. I saw other people running their life by this reliance upon God that I didn't really get. It was almost like they were full of shit. But I wish I had what that man has. I'm sure that this program would work for me if I could believe as that man believes. So it was comforting to realize that I could commence at a simpler level. I had to start somewhere. And I started at the start. With a little mustard seed of, I believe that this guy believed. And then from there, I took one little baby step, one little baby step, one little baby step. And got to the point where God's fucking everything. I want God to run my life. I am absolutely convinced any life run by me is not successful. And step 2 was the beginning of it. Upon that simple cornerstone, the mustard seed, a willingness to believe, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. But that theory, that concept of God is not enough. And then we get into the step 3 and it talks about, here's the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God, period. It doesn't work, period. Next, hereafter in this drama of life, what God was going to be our employer. And now we work for God. And this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch which we pass through to freedom. So this keystone is critical to this fucking God foundation to be actually built, this wonderfully effective spiritual structure. Step 3 is not a guessing game of how I fucking just turn it over by guessing. Through the directions of this program, through me being super willing and really trying to fucking do this and understanding the directions and implementing these directions, for me, it's launched me into the 4th dimension. I don't live in the 4th dimension all the time, mind you, because I want to fucking run the show from time to time, and I want what I want. And I know when I want what I want, I know that there's consequences. That's the shittiest part. I know that when I start running the show, I'm fucking myself. But this disease is so cunning, I can't always control it. But I'm not going to lose it so bad that I'm going to go drink. I'll just lose my mind for a day or two and get back on the train. And in the big book it says, Bill says, I was overcome by waves of self-pity and depression, but I soon realized that working with another alcoholic would always save the day. That's my experience. Working with another alcoholic has always saved the day. Working with another alcoholic has given me everything in this program. It has taught me more about me than any aspect of the inventory or anything. It has allowed me to open my heart in ways I didn't think was even possible. It has allowed me to do everything that I've ever wanted in my life, and it's way different than it was when I got here. But I don't know, man. I'm going through some tougher days these days because I think Creator's really stripping me down and building with me and doing with me as He will. But I think the most important thing is I just keep getting up and putting one foot in front of the other. And there's always stuff. There's always stuff. Along the journey of healing, there's always stuff. What is this but a miracle of healing? Circumstances made him willing to believe. The circumstances and the ability to me to bring God in and build strength and fortitude through the circumstance is the miracle of healing. Because like Chrissy said, when she did that little act of finishing what she didn't really want to do, it gave her that self-confidence. Through these little minuscule millimeter accomplishments and victories, we gain that true self-confidence. And the cool thing was she looked up and said, what am I going to do? Stood at the turning point. I can do what's easy. Fuck it, I'm out of here. Do it Monday. Or I can do it now. And she did what was hard and did it now. Through that, there was a fucking millimeter of fucking growth. And look at how it manifested in her life today. She's on the fucking cloud 9. Maybe tomorrow she won't be. But for now she is. And that's kind of where we want to be, right? So, if you're new or you're struggling or you're coming back or you're just going through the ups and the downs, you know what? That's what we do. We go through the ups, we go through the downs, and we just keep on plugging away, and we keep on bringing God in, and God becomes number one. And if He's not number one, make Him number one. Because every moment is setting up your next moment. And if you're in self-pity, depression, or anger, and you don't do something about it, then you're setting up the next moment to be more of that. And sometimes I don't set myself up to be the next moment positive, because this disease just grabs me sometimes. But a lot of times I do. And I take the next right action, and millimeter by millimeter, it turns itself around, and midday, I'm fucking, the shit in the morning didn't bother me in the afternoon. And I can ride through the night. But then I got to start this shit all over again in the morning. Because you just never know how this is going to go, right? It's a daily thing, moment by moment sometimes. So anyway, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk, and thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in to the THEUDRCAST. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. The viewpoints and the opinions expressed today were solely of the individual sharing them. If you resonated with this episode, please follow us and share this link with anyone that may benefit from it. Please visit us at Billwardlife to see everything that we have going on. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time.